So Rick, this is the Supertop NX for a 4-door JK, which is probably the biggest top we make and the most complicated install.
There's a lot of steps putting this together, but if you take your time and you go in sequence, it'll go together pretty smooth for you.
So really what you need to do is you sort of need to put the door surrounds on. You need to put some hardware together, some pre-assembly of some hardware. Attach that to the fabric or attach that to the Jeep.
You can do it in two different ways. You can put it all together on the ground or you can assemble it on the Jeep. I like to do it on the Jeep myself because it helps to hold the pieces in place while you're working.
So hardware, and then we're going to get the cloth over the top of that, put the windows on, and
pre-assembly, body-mounted bits, then we'll put the hardware on and the fabric last.
All right. The install guide said this one's fairly complicated and can take up to 4 hours.
Yeah, first time you've done it, if you're not experienced, it can take a long time.
But you, on the other hand, you're experienced.
I predict we'll get this done in about 15 minutes today.
15 minutes. Yeah. Awesome. Let's get started.
Great. Jeff, what you're going to do is install the cable guide bracket into the rear door surround. You set it up.
So this middle bit sits on top of the door channel.
Line up the holes. There is a right and a left, so you want to make sure you get that straight.
Okay.
But the cable guide here goes at the rear of the door, and the flange lands right on the supports.
Does it matter if the bolts go on the bottom or top?
I like to put the bolts from the bottom up. Gives it a smoother appearance from underneath.
Nuts on top.
Nuts go on top.
So that's the only pre-installation on the door rails. Now they're ready to just go on the Jeep?
After the pre-assembly, you're ready to put these on. There is a rear and a front. Make sure you got them right side, left side separated.
So this goes on the back.
Start with the back. Always works best to set the bottom in place first. There's a little tab that goes into a hole on the Jeep, and then you can slide it in place. Don't forget to make sure that your seals, the muckets, up at the front are in the right position and not folded and creased.
Oh, mucket. Got to say that. It's required.
There's two different size knobs that help hold these in place. There's going to be a long one that goes at the front and the back, and a little short one that goes in the middle.
So this front piece goes over the top of the back piece?
The front piece goes over the back piece, Jeff.
And the short knob goes in the middle. Door surrounds are on. What's this?
These are the main pivot brackets. They're going to be what holds the hardware frame on the rear of the Jeep.
Okay, so this says up RT and up LT. I'm going to give you the LT.
These are marked so that you know which direction they go and on which side of the vehicle. Now, if you have a hard top or your Jeep's never had a soft top on, the holes are already pre-drilled and tapped from the factory. All you need to do is line up the holes and then put the screws in that we include with the kit.
So this is real easy to hook up to the roll bar. And just to be fair with our viewers, we've already got these installed on this Jeep.
Yeah, on this Jeep you can see they're already installed.
But I just need to bolt this onto the roll bar right there.
That's right. The sport bar cover here comes with an access point, so you don't even have to cut to get inside.
What's the tool that you need?
It's a T30 Torx.
It's a Jeep. Go get a set of Torx.
That's right.
All right, so working our way to the back of the Jeep, we're to the tailgate bar bracket.
The tailgate clips are marked left hand, right hand.
I got RH on mine.
When they go on the car, it's real easy. You just kind of put them in place and snap them in.
That's a nice thing about the JK. You don't have to drill holes in it for these.
Yeah, I recommend you put that on the correct way, Jeff. Yeah, turn that around and snap it in.
So this goes this way.
That's right.
I would have figured that out.
At this point, the tailgate bar, I'd set that aside for you because you won't need that till later when
we'll
we're
hook that up to the
soft
window
goods
in a
on.
minute. So, these are next?
I like to go ahead and put the 3 and 4 bow on now.
The 3 and 4 bow?
Yeah, we number the bows from the front of the Jeep to the back. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
We used to have a quarterback called Tebow.
Tim Tebow. It was awesome.
Yes, he was. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got the 4 bow.
Yes, you do. The way I like to do it is go ahead, set it right up on top of the Jeep. And then you can use the quick release pivot knuckle to mount it right to the bracket that we've already installed.
And so this one, since it's number 4, goes on behind that like that.
Yes, it is.
Which of these holes are you putting it in?
There's 2 holes on the main pivot bracket that give you an opportunity to adjust the tension on the soft top if it gets a little loose. Always go to the one closest to the front. That's the normal design position for the factory soft top. And if the top loosens up over time, you can always move it back to get more tension.
But it's going to be tight even on a bright sunny day, so we'll keep it as loose as we can for now.
Yeah, always start in that first position.
Okay, so those bows are on.
Our next step, Jeff, is going to be putting on the stay pads. They connect the 3 and the 4 bow together to help the top go up and down.
I apologize. I know we get calls. Stay pad, they're basically these webbing straps.
Yeah, these 2 straps right here, they go between the 3 and the 4, and they are the same. They're just symmetrically opposite, so...
Mine goes this way, yours goes that way.
Correct.
So where do these go?
What you'll see is a straight cut on one end and an angle cut on the other.
Right.
You do need to make sure that you get those correct according to the position on the Jeep. The 2 holes on the straight end go to the 3 bow, and the diagonal cut with the 3 holes is going to go on the 4 bow.
Okay, so up here, can I pull this down to do this?
I prefer to do it when it's up.
Okay.
If you start the screws through the stay pad, it makes this step go a little easier. There are holes pre-drilled in the bow and the bracket that the screws are installed into.
Oh, so you're kind of wrapping that around the outside of that bar.
Goes around the outside, and the point of that diagonal cut goes to the inside.
Rick, we need to put these into the header. I know that, but I don't know which one goes where.
The side bows can be a little hard to tell apart, but the easiest way to do it is look for the bracket that's welded onto the bow.
Right?
It'll be closest to the header. It should be facing up in this configuration, and the little hook is going to be going to the inside.
Okay.
There's a little plastic tab out here that also goes to the inside.
So Rick, I know this step. We have to take this off so that we can put this bar in. So undo these 2 screws.
2 screws that hold the cable flag down are going to come off so you can insert the side bow.
When you work in engineering, you call them cable flags. The rest of us call them those little metal tabs.
Little metal tabs.
Got
That's
it.
right, Jeff. When you take these screws out, make sure you keep your hands on them. Don't lose them, because you'll need them to reassemble the
We're going to
header.
put these right back in, actually, aren't we? So I slide this in, line up those.
The holes will line up. You put the screws in that come included with the kit.
I got it. Okay, so the flag is still removed. The little metal tab are still loose on that.
Before we put the tab back on, we have to turn the header over. And there's
there's 2 screws on the back
that we're going to secure the top to the side bow.
Excellent. Don't want to forget those. Okay, so the side bow is now mounted onto the header.
After you get those top screws put on, you fold it back over and we can put the little metal tab back on. Make sure you use the same screws and put it back in the same holes that you removed them from to start. Jeff, at this stage, It's really easiest to go ahead and put the seals on that we include with the kit to the header to help keep it watertight up at the windshield.
The little corner pieces of foam rubber here.
That's right. 2 different seals, one for the right, one for the left, and then a leading edge seal for the very
Okay,
top
so I'll
corner.
take either of these, but which of those is the left and which is right?
There is a notch at the back that goes towards the bow and a notch at the front that aligns right with the header. Put them back on, align everything to the header, and then when you put it on, align it to the bow, and when you put everything down, it'll stay in place after it's secured on the Jeep. The leading edge seal, align with the plastic tab on the header, and then just adhere it to the fabric. At this stage, I recommend we go ahead and put it on the Jeep, but you can continue to assemble it on the ground if you like.
Okay, but it's just for simplicity's sake, easier to see what's happening, maybe a little bit simpler to put it up on the Jeep?
I prefer that we put it on the Jeep, and that's what our most recent installation instructions say.
Well, I think we should do the opposite.
Maybe you could hang with one arm.
You're the expert, Rick.
Go ahead. It's pretty easy. If you fold it up, have somebody help you out. Jeff's going to walk around the front of the Jeep. You can let the fabric rest right on the hood. And you can put this right up in position here. So after you get it positioned on top of the Jeep, if you want, you can go ahead and latch in on the door rail, your side bow here. But the next step is to attach the side bow to the number 3 bow. It's a T30 Torx with a screw in the kit that we provide.
How tight do you do that?
Good and tight.
Good and tight. Excellent. So this scary device is next.
The 2-bow is going to be next, and the 2-bow has a lot of different attachments, but that's what makes the top fold up and down real easy when you're putting the Sunrider open and closed and folding the top down.
Okay, so this is obviously going over the Jeep. Which way does this go on the Jeep?
It's going to go the other way. The bow with the little curve on the side is going to go towards the front. The straight bow goes towards the back.
Curved bow goes to the front. Okay.
Easy way to do it. Let's go ahead, open everything up, and you can just set it right down on top of the Jeep.
So this mounts to the side bow with these 2 holes here, right?
There's 2 holes on the side bow.
On each side, of course.
This goes to the inside. And then where it gets a little tricky is this bracket at the front where that dog leg control arm sits. And we got to put a screw, 2 bushings, and a nut to keep it nice and tight and let it work the way it's supposed to.
A screw, 2 bushings, and a nut. Excellent. All right, let me have a screw, 2 bushings, and a nut. Thank you very much.
The screw goes through the bow, and then the bushings are going to go 1 on either side. I'll put the screw through from the outside, 1 bushing on each side of the bow. I would hand tighten these to start with, so it works real great if you get a Phillips driver and an adjustable wrench.
And yeah, I saw that you needed one of those, so there you go.
Maybe just a little bit smaller.
A little smaller? Let me get a different one.
Take your time when you tighten this screw down because you don't want to crack the bushing when you're torquing on the screw.
Okay.
After you assemble the back, you want to move to the front. The front gets a little tricky, but you put a bushing in each side of the bow and then position it where the J-hook is, and then you put the screw through, and then you tighten it down and use your wrench and screwdriver. This one you can tighten down nice and secure, but be careful with the back one. You don't want to crack the bushing. This side's always a little bit harder than the other because you've got it already in place.
Okay, so Rick, this was slightly tricky attaching this two bow to the side bow.
Yeah, that front connection on the two bow is probably the most difficult of the whole assembly because of the unusual shape, but it's not too bad once you get it. Just make sure you do it.
I picture the people backing this up on YouTube and watching that one more time.
Yeah, they may want to see that again, getting the bushings in. Whatever you do, don't drop screws in a bunch of rocks.
Right, right. Don't do that.
Yeah,
we
I would
wouldn't
advise
do that.
against that.
But the hardware's done.
Hardware's done. At this point, we're going to take the fabric, we're going to attach it to each of the bows, and then it's clip and zip, and off you go.
So this fabric that's draped over the hood gets attached to this bow, and that bow.
Jeff, we have 5 screws for the 2 bow, 4 screws for the 3 bow, and 4 screws for the 4 bow.
And some snaps.
Snaps are for the roll-up straps that we provide you for your rear window.
Ignore that. Okay. So stretch the fabric out, wrap that little thing around, and put it in.
Yep. Grab the bow flap. Make sure we're not stuck on anything. There are drill holes in the fabric flaps that mark where the screw position is, and they attach to the bow through the holes pre-drilled.
And lift this up a little.
Makes this step a little easier if you can lift that header up a little. For the 3 bow flap, it's the same. The flap has holes pre-drilled to mark the screw positions, and then those screws go into the holes pre-drilled in the number 3 bow.
This one's easier because I don't need to wrap the fabric around.
This one goes right straight to it, doesn't have to go underneath. That's right.
One more bow?
For the number 4 bow, there's 4 small tabs that have the same hole pre-drilled to mark the screw location and the pre-drilled hole in the bow. So Jeff, after you finish getting all the bow flaps put to the bows, your last step is going to be attaching the spring for the cable that holds the deck side down on the door rails.
So there's a cable that runs all the way from the front to here.
Yeah, if you
remember. And that's what holds this down. It used to be you had to fold those underneath, and now we've got this.
Yeah, we replaced those plastic retainers that clip into the door with a cable that's attached at the front. It was part of that process when we put the side bows in.
Right.
It goes all the way to the back with the spring to keep it nice and tight when you close it down.
So all I need is a little slack.
Yep. So after you fold the sunroof back, if you put the spring into position, then you'll want to use a pair of vice grips to crimp it in place so it doesn't come loose. The only other thing I want to point out, Jeff, is when you're opening and closing the sunroof, make sure you keep your fingers out of the pinch points from that bow that we put on. So when I go up and down, I always like to try and make sure that I keep an open hand.
Oh, right.
Either way I'm going. So Jeff, I hope you saw it's not really all that difficult to put on. There's a couple of tricky spots, but if you take your time, have some patience, follow the instructions, you should be able to put it on with no trouble. So I'm going to let you handle putting the windows in.
You're going to run off to do your meeting and see if I can figure out how to put the windows on?
I've got some important work to do. Go design the next Bestop product.
Well, that seems reasonable. No problem. I'll be glad to put these windows on.
All right.
And thanks very much for helping. So it's a nice hot day today, and it makes it a lot easier. We had all the top and the windows sitting out in the sun, so everything's a little bit of soft and relaxed, but it's still very tight. But that's what you want with a brand new top. And what I did is I hooked the windshield latches, but didn't tighten them all the way up. I just connected them. And now I'm going to put these back ends on. And this can be a little tricky. You want to make sure this rolls all the way in. Okay, so got that nice and tight. Now I can zip this window. Tailgate bar, rubber seal goes out. We have 2 top arch bars. They're optional, and we decided not to install them today. If you want to put them in to make sure that your top stays nice and tight, especially with things like snow melt and stuff like that, go ahead and install these. They just go right across the top like that, underneath on the door bars, or the door surrounds, excuse me. Make sure you take this paper off, it's just protectant. And that's it. Other than making sure you've got the Velcro down nice and tight, you're done. That's a Supertop NX on a 4-door, and again, probably the hardest install that we've got on a soft top, but that went pretty well. It took us about 2 hours, but that included stops for filming. We say it might take you as many as 4 hours the first time you do it, and I'll tell you, after you're done, you deserve a beer just to sit back and enjoy the look of your Jeep, because that's a really nice looking top.